This
Hi.
is Jackie, and I am here with Beau Burchell of Saosin. 20 years. That is how long it has been since releasing your self titled debut. I don't even know where to start with questions, but I'll start with something easy, maybe. What do you attribute to your band's longevity?
Oh man, it's like that question and if we had a band starting today, what would we do? Right? Like both those questions I have no idea how to answer. I think that all I can really do is just be super grateful that people have continued to enjoy the music and support us over the years. Because it's like I don't know what it is, like on our end all we're doing is just trying to write the best music we can, and you hope that people connect with it and enjoy it the same way that we do. And I think we've just been very fortunate that people have been and are still enjoying it. So yeah, I have no idea how to. I don't know what the secret is.
Now, we're of a certain age.
Mhm.
Thinking about 20 years ago and now, what has changed the most other than our obvious ages?
Just in any specific area or.
Um, Is anything easier now as a band that might have been difficult when you got started?
Ooh, yeah, I think that there's, certain technologies have gotten easier, like even just, I know the normal person may not care about this, but on a technical side, like all technology, right? Like things have gotten smaller and more portable and less expensive over the years. So those things have gotten a little more accessible or easier, I guess. We used to carry around like all the big crazy big amps and stuff, and like even the mixing boards were like the size of a kitchen island. But now everything is just real small and compact, and we can fly with all of our gear in little checked cases, which is crazy to think about. And but yeah, I mean, oh, you know what is one thing that is pretty interesting now is just being able to see kind of like real time feedback from people that are interacting with the band. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not so good, because if I have, if I have one small little guitar mistake on stage, I can guarantee that there's going to be five people in the front row that captured it on their phone, and it's already going to be on YouTube or Instagram, and they're going to tag me in it and be like, I saw you mess up. Um, but then on the flip side, like when we put out a new song or people, you can see the reaction and people are excited about it. Or we can see, like for the tour we just announced, we can get like real time ticket sales and stuff. And being able to see those types of analytics is so encouraging. Um, but I guess, I would imagine that if it was not as positive results, it would be, I wouldn't like seeing it as much. I would definitely shy away.
Well, and to your
But
point, cell phones were not ubiquitous 20 years ago.
no, no. I mean, like, even thinking about, hopefully some of the people watching this won't realize how old we are. But you know what I mean? But it was like, so, you know, when we first started touring, there we didn't have cell phones, and we literally had to like get all of the addresses for the venues we were playing, and we had to print them out in MapQuest, or we had actually before that we had to use a Thomas guide, and we would actually show up to a city that we've never been to, and we had just a phone number of a person that we were supposed to call, right? And we would have to find a payphone, and then we would call their home landline. And a lot of the times with like the younger, like punk and hardcore shows, we would call and it would be like, hello? Hello? Who's this? And I'm like, this is Bo from Saosin. Is Chad home? And it'd be like, Chad, you have a phone call. And, because they're like living with their parents and they're promoting shows, right? So that's kind of like what it was like. And then, obviously as the internet and phones started becoming a thing, then you could do all sorts of things with it. But then, yeah, now it's just kind of like, oh my, I mean, like now when we're done playing a show, I mean, by the time we get back to the bus or the hotel, there's already videos uploaded and people are like tagging you in it. And it's really crazy, like on one side, it's like, I was looking at a oh, I was watching an interview, I forget who it was, but they were kind of talking about I mean, their opinion was that, like, maybe cell phones have like ruined the concert experience, right? But from a perspective that I hadn't really thought of before, where it was like they were saying that now artists are very scared to go off script, or to experiment with anything new or try something that might be a little, hanging by a thread a little bit, because they're so scared that they might mess up and that it's going to be posted all over the internet the next day out of context, and like, oh, this band is sucks. So that's why a lot of the times the shows are so, we're doing what's rehearsed and what works. Um, as well as, obviously, if you're standing behind the person that has the iPad out, it's like that's not really a great seat to be in. Um, but yeah, it's just, yeah, a lot has changed. So those would probably be the biggest things. Just like as soon as something happened that night, you can literally see hundreds of videos of it on the internet, and people are tagging you in it. And most of the time it's nice because it's like, oh, we had such a great time at the show and this and that. And then of course, and then commenting on that is like, why didn't you play my city? So
Or why didn't you play this song?
totally, yeah,
If you
yeah.
are the scene kid that's holding the iPad at a hardcore show, we need to have a conversation.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't have a talk with your parents. All right.
That too.
Yeah.
Now, your latest single, Starting Over Again, kind of feels like a mission statement of sorts. Is that fair to
Mhm.
say?
I, you know, I think so. I think we didn't really plan it that way. We have probably, we're wrapping up a whole record. And that was the one song where we just felt like, we didn't intentionally write that as like a comeback song or whatever. We wrote like a comeback record. And out of the songs that, we have pretty much ready to go right now, that was the one where it just kind of felt like, man, this kind of embodies everything musically, lyrically. They've just everything about Seosin that we all enjoy. And we would kind of just put it out with the idea of like, this feels like Cove is back. You know what I mean? And it feels like when I hear it, it's like, man, I feel like this is self-titled in 2026. And so that's kind of what made us kind of choose that song. And it was kind of, man, this just feels really good. So yeah, but it wasn't really like a purpose-built song or anything like that. It just kind of happened naturally. And but yeah, I guess you could say it's a little bit of a restart, I guess. But the song's mainly about like, relationships and things that you would go through in life.
Now, I did hear you say album, correct?
Yeah.
So there's more new music to come?
Oh yeah. Yeah, a
Okay.
lot more music.
I needed to get that on record because I was
Yeah.
like, I think this is a start of more music. So that's
Yeah,
awesome to
absolutely.
hear.
So we got a record deal with Sumerian.
Yes.
So the record will be coming out on Sumerian. And we've kind of really about, man, I want to say about a year ago, we just kind of, I went to the band and I was like, guys, I think like my passion for the band is just totally rekindled, and it's just ignited off the charts. Like, I need to have everyone's full agreement that like we're gonna go hard at this and we're gonna be back, that we're putting the lights are on, open for business, let's go. So, and everyone was just kind of like, oh yeah, awesome, let's do it. So yeah, we sat down and we made the decision that we're gonna hit it hard again. And so we've taken a lot of time to kind of like put all the pieces into place, and now everything is kind of starting to roll out and it's starting to feel really good.
Oh, we're so ready. We're so ready.
Yeah.
How have things changed as far as how you're approaching music? Whether it comes to the songwriting or just kind of how you guys work together. How have things evolved from 20 years ago?
Man, it's still kind of, if I had to generalize it, it's still kind of the same, in the sense of like I'll either start with a song or Chris will start with a song. But now the difference is we've had Phil in the band for the last like 10 years, I think. So now we have Phil as a writer as well. So there's basically like three songwriters in the band now, which is great because I think our overall output and productivity has, it hasn't just gone up by 30%, it's gone up by like 70%, so that's feeling really good, as well as having him be so technically minded coming from the metal world. There's a lot of like kind of more metal influence in the riffing. And yeah, it just feels like everyone, we finally just have all the pieces of like a full unit to where everyone can focus on their own thing that they do best. And I don't know, I feel like it shows with starting over again, so that's kind of like where we're headed.
And how does signing to Sumerian Records kind of put that all together for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gives us the freedom to completely focus on just doing music, you know? Um, because usually if you're trying to self-fund a record, right, you kind of have to balance your time and life and work. And then, as you know, like as you get older, you have more and more responsibilities. You have all these other financial obligations that you have to make sure that are taken care of, as well as, if you have kids, you've got like multiple sports practices throughout the week, and you're just trying to cram in this time. So thankfully, through the help of the doing a record deal for this, now we're all kind of like freed up to solely focus on the music for it, which is pretty fantastic feeling.
That definitely has to take
Yeah.
kind of some pressure off of things for sure.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and also too, even just having kind of like an external source saying that like, wow, we really believe in you, that feels really good too, as well as there was some people that came into the label that we really respected. And so having them kind of like give us like the, yo, we love this. So yeah, that feels good too. It's a little bit of a confidence booster before it even gets into the world.
oh, of course.
Yeah.
A few days ago, you officially announced the 20th anniversary tour for what sort of became kind of nicknamed the Beatle album because of the
Yeah.
cover art. Um, when it comes to, so I have a couple of questions, but I was like, so the album itself kind of became a blueprint for post-hardcore. When we think back about that time, there was so much good music in the mid aughts. You know,
I know.
when you think back, what is one thing about that album, in your opinion, that the album is still good? I press play, and not only am I kind of transformed back 20 years ago, obviously, but
Mhm.
also like it still works. So why do
Mm.
you think like it really has sort of stood the test of time when I remember back 20 years ago, post hardcore was such a blip that, there weren't many radio stations even playing it. So, what do you think was about that specific album for you guys that this album truly endures and we're so ready for this tour?
Oh man. See, I don't know. Like every once in a while, I kind of look back at our career, like, man, maybe like, I mean, it's very, I don't know, not even once in a blue moon, maybe like what's less frequent than that, like an orange moon or a red moon or something. I don't know. But yeah, very seldom I'll look back, right? And then every once in a while, I'll think about like, Seosin always kind of existed, like, just like if you have the Venn diagram or like those little circles of like all the different genres, right? We just kind of like we never really exist. We were never like if you think of certain like quote unquote emo bands, right? Like I feel like we were never fully inside that circle. You know what I mean? We were kind of like always on the fringe of it. And then same thing with the metal world. We were never like a metal band, but we had like metal pieces and like we had the emotion or like intensity of hardcore, but we didn't have like enough breakdowns and screaming to be hardcore. You know what I mean? Like so I feel like maybe we were just kind of like, and we never really like fit in with some of like I guess some of the trends that were like getting popular, or you would see certain bands just kind of blow up all of a sudden and there was like this kind of wave or trend that was happening, to ride that. And I feel like sometimes we missed that, like as far as like from a personal experience, it was like, oh man, I wish we had a wave we could like ride, because I feel like we're always just paddling. um but maybe that is something to be said where we were just kind of always doing our own thing. And maybe because it wasn't super trendy, I guess, at the time, that it still feels just kind of, we're just like blue jeans and a t-shirt, you know? Like,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense
yeah.
because you weren't fully enveloped in any one specific
Mhm.
micro genre. I think that that does make sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense to me anyway. As far as the tour production, do you think you're going to lean heavily into that sort of nostalgic mid aughts, or are you going to kind of update it more for modern audiences?
Ooh. Um, we've just started talking about production right now. Um, I would like to do as much as we can, but but still it's different, right? Because like every band, I feel like the production kind of has to be catered to every band. And like me and Phil go to a lot of shows, and sometimes you'll see a band and you're just like, man, these guys are so awesome, but like the video wall is so bright that like I can't even really see the guys in the band. And sometimes I think that works if it's mainly like a mysterious band maybe, or a band that just kind of like is focused on playing their instrument, right? But then some bands have a lot of energy like a story of the year type band, right? Like
Yeah.
I would want to make sure that like when they're doing those like guitar kicks and stuff, like that I can see them, you know? So yeah, we're all kind of talking about like what production we're gonna do on the tour, but I think it'll be more than what we've ever done before.
So excited.
So yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
and of course, you did mention earlier that there is a whole album. Is there something specific or people that are influencing your songwriting right now?
I think we're mainly influenced by ourselves. It's as much as I want to say I would say there's equal things that I'm inspired by every day as things that I'm not inspired by. You know what I mean? Like, because we're in a strange time, right? Like, it's never been easier to find music, but then it's also like never been harder to sift through all that music, you know? So, but I do feel like, you know, me personally, I am in like a really good headspace where I'm intentionally trying to, if someone sends me a link to something and they're like, you got to check out this band, right? And it's like, even if you are, and I'm sure you have those friends where it's like, exactly what the band's going to sound like depending on who sent it to you.
Yes.
And so, I'm always trying to keep an open mind as far as like, okay, cool. Well, like this person is really fired up about this band. Like there must be something good in there. You know what I mean? Like let me try to like really give it a listen and see if I can find something and learn something from it. Because I do realize too, I mean, like even like when our band first started, like I remember showing it to people that were maybe older than us. And I remember one friend telling me, I guess an older acquaintance, I guess, because they would have been much older. And it was like, yeah, so this is your band, huh? Oh, that's kind of cool. Have you ever heard of Rush? You guys kind of sound like Rush. And like at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, you're so out of touch, right? And so I'm definitely I've always made kind of like a conscious effort to not become that person that's like, oh, your band sounds like, Led Zeppelin or something,
I was going
like
to say,
so.
please don't tell me that's what we're going to become because I refuse.
Totally, right? And it's like, but it takes an active effort to like really make sure that you're not just listening to I mean, it's sick that we can all still listen to our playlist from 2005, but like it's cool to like introduce new things into it. You know what I mean? And make sure that like you're aware of what else is happening. And being able to spot the cool things that are happening, and like cool trends that are popping off, and like just being able to appreciate and like be in that moment and experience it. Because at least for me it's exciting because I feel like when Saosin started we were part of like that kind of exciting new hybrid genres that were coming out, and now seeing all the new things that are coming out now and continue to come out is still really exciting.
It's also really exciting because several bands that kind of got their start in that time period are now finally getting radio airplay, and
Yeah,
it's very much blows my mind. I mean, I check. I got to figure out what year I'm in. It feels like I'm pulling everything out of a time capsule. I'm not mad about it, and I'm like,
right.
oh, finally, we know. Like everyone knows who these people are. It's incredibly cool. Um,
Yeah,
you just wrapped a tour in New Zealand, Australia, and Southeast Asia. So welcome back, because that was just like a few days ago, correct?
yeah, yep.
Do you
Mhm.
even know what time it is?
I know that I'm tired.
Yes, I
Um,
bet.
yeah.
Now, does that area, do they also have Scene Kids, or is there a more modern version of us across the other pond?
Right, yeah. No, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like, Australia is very I always joke that because, I live in Southern California, and we always joke that, like, Australia is just Southern California with a different accent. So it's very casual, except nowhere they just I'm not even gonna say it's close. They just don't even have good Mexican food. That's the difference. But they have a lot of good other food. So, but yeah, I mean, like, Australia's like pretty much the same, right? And even just like looking out in the crowd, you're like, oh, I could be in Los Angeles or San Diego, anywhere. And but then New Zealand was similar, um, similar crowd. And then yeah, when we're going into Southeast Asia, the only real difference is when you go to um say like Kuala Lumpur or maybe Indonesia or any of the countries where oh my gosh, I'm gonna slaughter this right now, where the majority of people are Muslim. So like the only difference is going to be like they're still going to be wearing like like a Saosin shirt or even like a Metallica shirt, but they just might have like a face covering on, or like a headdress, you know what I mean? And it's like, and I remember the first time we went over there, I remember there was a car, and we had like it was we were like very popular there, and the first time we went to, I want to say it was like it was either Bandung or Jakarta, and we had kind of like a police escort, like getting us out of the venue. We were like in a bus, and then there was like this car that was like chasing us for a while, and it turned out to be, at least I think, I could be butchering the story, but I remember us pulling over at some point, and then they got out of the car, and they were fans, and they were asking us to like sign a poster and stuff. And this girl got out of the car, and she like came up to us, and she was wearing a headdress and but with like a Kiss shirt on. And like my mind was blown, right? Because I'm like, because all of the stereotypes and stuff that we have, like just growing up in California and like not really getting to experience all the different countries. And I was like, this is so crazy. Like, you're wearing a Kiss shirt, and she's like, well, yeah, like I'm just, we just have a different religion, and like I love metal music and I love rock music. It's so rad. And I was like, this is so cool. So like um yeah, there's just all these really cool different experiences. But that's like literally like the only difference. Everyone in some countries you might get people that like South America and certain parts of Southeast Asia, they'll like sing your riffs to you. You know what I mean? So
It's
like
wild.
yeah, it's super cool. So like, do you know our song, I Can Tell There Was an Accident Here?
Yes.
So like the whole intro to that, the whole crowd is just like, "Whoa," and you're just like, oh my gosh, like right from the get-go. So it's
Oh,
super
that's
cool.
sick. That's sick.
Yeah.
Now we were talking earlier just about the music industry in general and cell phones and everything. In 2026, what does success look and feel like for you? Because I can imagine 20 years ago, the goals for success were probably a little bit different.
Oh, totally. Well, I think as a 20-year-old, you're just overall perspective on life is so skewed and like uneducated, you know? Um, so I think when I was 20, I probably thought that, I can't wait to be, the next Metallica, or just some insert huge band, right? And when you're first kind of starting out, the people that are around you are trying to pump you up and make you feel like you're this larger than life personality, so that hopefully maybe you'll become that personality or that larger than life thing, right? Um, but now it's just kind of like, man, if I can continue doing music, then this is a big win, because I mean, but I also do have a pretty successful career like producing and making records on my own. So I think for me it might be a little different than someone else. But for me, yeah, it's like literally every time I get on stage and people are singing words back to me, I'm like, man, I would do this for free. This is awesome, you know.
Well, that sounds pretty
Yeah.
successful. You've
Yeah.
got a couple of summer festival slots lined up, kind of all around the world again,
Yeah.
more on the Western Hemisphere. Then your fall tour is going to be supported by Silent Planet, like Moths to Flames, and Save Us. And tickets go
Yeah.
on sale tomorrow. Very
Yeah.
exciting. Thank you so much, Beau from Saosin. This is Jackie. Thanks to Chorus FM and In the Key of Change.